Hi friends, my name is MEE-sha and I make videos about my journey into becoming a better software engineer. Today I'd like to share with you my work routine, so the rituals that I do on an almost daily basis while I'm at work as a software engineer. I'm actually filming in my team's floor right now on a Sunday morning because it's empty, I don't want to embarrass myself in front of my coworkers, and I don't want to interrupt them during the workday on a weekday. So here we are. Let's go to my desk. Hello, Editor MEE-sha, popping in here to say that I added intertitles in this video with brief explanations of tech jargon for my non-techie friends. Do not distract too much from the video though, the intertitles only last 2 seconds, which is perfect for pausing if you need it, or letting it play through if you already know the term. P.S. Thanks for watching, hope you like it. Bye! The first thing I like to do when I get to my desk is set up my workstation for the day. I use an Ergodox Easy split keyboard as well as a second monitor, which is an Asus Sonic Master. The monitor is provided by the company. The Ergodox are my personal keyboard and they're also my favorite because I just like being able to type like this because it helps my wrists from not being in pain after a long work day or work week. Once everything is set up, I open up my Outlook and my WebEx Teams so I can check my messages, and I also sign on to my other Cisco accounts using the Duo single sign-on client. This is not sponsored, by the way, but Duo is a Cisco acquisition and it's made my life super easy because it means I sign on once a day as opposed to multiple times a day every time I switch Cisco applications. So it's been a really great, efficient streamlining service. So yay Duo, yay us, yay Cisco. While all of that is loading up, I also open up my IDEs, Eclipse for Java development and Visual Studio Code for my Angular development. And I like to do a git pull just so that I'm synchronized with the rest of the team and their changes. This usually takes a couple of minutes, so I like to use this time to either refill my water bottle or get coffee. And since I want to show you our break room, let's get coffee. Coffee acquired, let's go back to my desk. Typically around this time, my IDEs should have finished building and refreshing my workspaces so I can get back to work. But before I get back to work, I like to do a build along with my local changes and the new remote changes that I just fetched just to make sure that nothing is breaking. After that, I get onto my task lists. I like to keep a notebook where I list out my coding tasks as well as any acceptance criteria of user stories that I'm working on so that I can just have one single place where I can refer to for whatever the heck it is that I'm doing for that day. I don't really have any user stories that I'm working on right now because I'm just focusing on a project which is an Angular rewrite, so I only really have tasks to review. But the way that I do it, and this is what I've come to really appreciate about myself, is that I keep a mental note, or not a mental note, I keep a physical copy of my mental notes for what I'm working on, so I make sure to always check off whatever I worked on. I also, when I'm hitting a roadblock, I work it out through in this notebook, and then I like to use sticky notes so that I can kind of like work out a problem, and if that's not the right solution, I just rip it off and then I replace it with the right solution. So that's my process in terms of getting organized. So it's really easy for me to come back into work and figure out what I need to work on in that morning. So after I deal with the emails and all of those tasks, which is about sometimes 15 to 30 minutes, and since I get to work around 9:45 to 10 o'clock, around 10:30 I'm ready to code again. That's my coworker. I usually code for 1 to 2 hours from 10:30 to 11:45, 12:30. I usually hit a natural stopping point after like 1 to 2 hours of just pure brain power, and then I start to get hungry for lunch. So I either eat lunch in the break room with my coworkers or my teammates, my direct teammates, or I go across the street to the company cafeteria and eat with other coworkers who I onboarded with during orientation but are not in my same team. So that I usually take an hour for lunch. Because I eat and then I socialize, and I just feel like it's an important part of the day to like stop and just catch up with friends, not really think about work and just have fun. So yeah, I like to take my time with an hour lunch. Usually it's 45 to 1 hour, depending on how far I have to go to walk back to my desk. As a junior developer, my schedule is pretty sparse, so I have 1 to 2 meetings a day at most, maybe, and that includes the nightly stand-up. And I just get to work on code, which is super nice. And I know that a lot of people, when they tend to go more towards senior leadership, they tend to have less and less time to do the actual coding, and they have more and more meetings. So for now, I'm really savoring that time. Basically, my workday is kind of boring and kind of repetitive. I just go through my tasks lists, I work it out, I try to code, I try to push something at the end of the day, especially every like 2 or 3 days, depending on how big the feature I'm working on. Before I do that though, I like to do builds every hour or so, just to make sure that I'm not breaking anything. And at the same time, I'm also working out things on my notebook. Like I said, I'm also checking in with my senior engineers that I'm working with, because there's a lot to learn from them. I can talk more about this in a separate video about how it's like to be mentored by a software engineer that's more senior than you. But typically they give me like the general direction that I should head towards, and then I work out how I want to go towards that direction. I do take a couple of minutes break every hour or so, especially thanks to my Fitbit that tells me to get some steps every hour. I either go and get a water refill, or I go get a coffee refill if I'm feeling pretty groggy, but typically no. But the thing that I do the most is go on social media on my phone while I'm taking a lap around the floor. At first it was kind of weird to my coworkers, but then I think they've gotten like kind of used to it, so now they know, like when I'm passing by them, they're like, oh, she's at her hourly walk or whatever, and sometimes they do share that walk with me, so it's pretty fun. That's pretty much my work routine at the office. At the end of the day, around 4:45 or 5 o'clock or 5:10, depending on when I start hitting my super like stopping point at the end of the day, I close my laptop, I put it back in my bag, and I go catch the light rail. My workday doesn't necessarily end here though, because like I said, I have nightly stand-up meetings Mondays to Thursdays. So we have an equally large team here in San Jose and an equally large team in Bangalore, India. So we have our stand-ups at night at 9:30 p.m. for one project and at 10 p.m. for another project. In that time, I actually don't do any work. I just chill, hang out, watch Netflix, YouTube primarily now actually. I sometimes play violin. I can talk more about like what I do outside of work if that's interesting to you, but for now I'm going to sign off, and you will catch me in the next one. Bye bye!